Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Cups of Coffee with Tex. My name is Darren Tejada, aka Tex, where we have grown man combos. We want to get comfortable with the uncomfortable conversation. And today I'm joined by a guest. Guest, introduce yourself.
Wow. How long do you want the introduction to be?
Hey, man, it could be as long as you need.
Well, I am Brandon Caldwell, writer, journalist. Currently, you can find me in Pitchfork, previously in Vibe, Complex, anywhere you can just happen to search what I happen to write about, mostly about music, culture, and the world at large.
Okay, that's pretty cool. And we would be remiss if we did not let people know where we are today. Today, we are being sponsored by The Tipping Point at 214 Travis Street, Suite A, Houston, Texas, 77002 in downtown Houston.
Yes.
Right at the corner of Travis and Congress.
Yes.
There we go. We want to thank our gracious host, David of The Tipping Point, for allowing us to use their space here at The Tipping Point and Roundhouse Vintage, lest I forget.
Yes. I have a few pieces I may want to purchase.
I spend my money in here. That's but one of the things about spending money with people that you know is they allow you to utilize their spaces for other good things as well, such as taping this episode of the Cups of Coffee with Tex.
Right.
And the reason why we are here today is because I wanted to have a conversation based around a movie I recently saw called One Night in Miami, the directorial debut of what I sometimes consider, you know, she's my boo in my mind, Miss Regina King. Yeah, I can say that out loud.
You can. This is a safe space.
This is a safe space. We have cultivated a safe space, and this is another reason why I believe that Cups of Coffee with Tex is so important, because I believe that men don't have enough safe spaces to talk, and if they do, they don't know about it or know how to go about finding one or anything of that nature. And One Night in Miami was about four grown men having a conversation in what they considered a safe space and what it looked like.
Right.
The four grown men that we're talking about were Jim Brown, Cassius Clay, Malcolm X, and Sam Cooke. Four historical figures in their own right. Only one of them still living.
Is with us, yeah.
Mr. Jim Brown. You know, I have some things to say about the movie and the conversation.
Right.
But in regards to that, the first thing that I want to ask you was, when was the first instance when you needed to have a constructive conversation with a male comrade? And before I let you answer, I want to go into a couple of things about the movie.
Okay.
For those that haven't seen the movie, number one, please go to Amazon Prime, watch the movie.
Yes.
So that you can understand what we're talking about. These four gentlemen were at the peak of each of their respective careers. Or, well, let me not say the peak. One was beginning and ascending. One was at the peak. One was at a middling ground, trying to find what was his next step going to be. He's the one I also have the most fault with in the movie. And one was, I don't know how to really describe where Sam Cooke was.
I think the best way to really explain Sam Cooke was that he was dabbling in both worlds of whiteness and blackness, because the live album he created at a very black venue, right? So I think this is also maybe a slight critique of the movie, is that in actuality, Sam kind of understood where his blackness lay in the world, and also where his voice needed to be heard in the world. The film, however, acts as if Malcolm X is the one that drives him to that through, constantly belittling and berating, thinking, that you're not doing enough, you sold out, you play for these white folks, things of that nature. But in reality, there's truth to the fact that Bob Dylan kind of influenced The Change Gonna Come.
Okay.
There is fact that it was actually recorded before the fight.
Okay.
It was released before the fight, and Sam actually performed it before the fight.
Okay.
As time progresses, it becomes Malcolm's favorite song. But what I think the film also does a slight disservice to is the fact that Sam dies 2 months before Malcolm does, but makes no mention of it in the end credits.
Okay. Now, and just so everyone knows, when I say ascending, I'm speaking of Cassius Clay.
Mm-hmm.
When I say at the peak of his powers, I'm speaking of Jim Brown.
Yeah.
When I say middling, I'm talking about Malcolm.
Yes.
Just because of the footing that he was on with his own, questions about his Muslim faith, so to speak.
His loyalty to the NOI, yes.
Yes, his back and forth with the Nation of Islam and where he stood there. He was very fragile and vulnerable at that particular state of mind, so to speak, to me.
Right. I agree.
Because he was betting on a lot of things that he had no guarantees on.
Yeah. If in a sense, Malcolm X in reality, in terms of between November 1963 and February 1964, is almost similar to Adam Sandler's character in Uncut Gems.
Okay, so before we go there, and I still have not seen this movie.
Okay.
And
it is chaotic, it is stressful, and essentially think of it as a man who already had enemies, but now has newfound enemies, and is trying to navigate his way out of that trouble.
Okay, I will go from that, and I will put that on my list to watch that movie this weekend. But back to the question. They were having a very critical conversation with each other, about each other, for each other. When was the first instance that you find yourself having to have one of those type of constructive conversations or critical conversations with one of your homies, your boys, friend or family member?
College.
Right.
College was the first actual one. I mean, I've had sit downs with my father, and we kind of laid out like, what exactly do you want to do? Because you have too much play in your system. Like, you don't have like discipline.
Okay.
And the reason why he said that is because naturally education came easy for me.
Okay.
So when it came time to like go to school, he wanted me to go to the Naval Academy. You're right. He wanted me to go to the Naval Academy to see the world and to have that type of discipline.
Was he in the Navy?
No.
Okay.
No. My father was a full-blown hippie in the 60s, 70s, but as he got older, he became more conservative in his thoughts and beliefs, and he thought that for me, like, service would kind of like ground me and kind of like distill into me a sense of purpose beyond, artistic purpose. I've always had artistic purpose, but not like servitude and also like discipline. Okay. So when it came to college, a lot of things shifted because now I have full blown freedom. I can hang with my friends. I can pick and choose when I want to go to class. I can entertain, far more women because I'm not constricted by going home. I can easily just say, hey, just come to the dorm room.
Right.
But in that, I didn't know how to control it. I was at times manipulative, at times cold, unfeeling, I would say, because I'm free. I'm supplying my egos, my id, my super ego, right, in all forms of pleasure. Like, that's all I want. But it took my friends, my brothers, if you will, sitting me down and saying, hey, while all this is going on with you and you feel happy, you feel good, you feel like you do whatever, look at the world that you're shaping now. Look at every time you take a step, there's a ripple effect. And that ripple effect now bears upon us because we have to take on your shit. Right. And now we have to listen to other people talk about you. And we love you. We don't like when other people talk about you. We, as your friends, as your brothers, we hold that distinction. We can talk shit about you because it's us. Right. And we will have these discussions internally between us. So they sat me down. I will never forget this. They sat me down at those apartments that are somewhat off of McGregor before you get into like Calhoun and Cullen Oaks. We're at Cullen Oaks. Okay. So we're at Cullen Oaks. They had sat me down. I was in between, not even like really dating, but I was just wilding out.
I got you.
And we just had a full-blown sit-down conversation because, again, other people were tired. They were tired of hearing from other people about me. So for that moment on, like, it just kind of like stuck. Like, hey, if your friends notice you're wilding, strangers know you're wilding, but you can't see that you're wilding. Let's take this mirror and show you all the things you've done.
Got you.
Now, have I had conversations since that day where it would be like in-depth, hey, what's going on, things, those type of situations? Of course, I had those when my father passed. I had those conversations when, you know, you have your brief moments of depression. I think that particular one in 2007, going into 2008,
Okay.
really shifted plenty.
Okay.
Because now a lot of times my friends come to me. Not necessarily my brothers, but I know my male friends who are like, we're close, like real close.
So let me ask you this. When you say that they come to you, are you not, do you not open up the conversations easily?
I think what has occurred now is that I've become the vessel which other people open up to.
Okay.
And I'm more open about my own thoughts and beliefs than I was almost 14 years ago.
Okay. And the reason why I ask that is because, so let's say me, I have brothers, I have friends, but at the same time, like, a lot of the times it's more of them coming to me and say, hey man, what's going on with you, than me saying, hey, I mean, I'm better at like saying I have a problem now, or I got some issue I want to talk about or whatever. But a lot of times it was going to be like, I was just going to be shut off and be like, oh man, I don't really, If somebody comes to me and talks about it, okay, cool. But I didn't feel that.
You didn't volunteer.
I never was volunteering information, and it's probably interfered in like work, personal, romantic, business, all of that. I was never big on volunteering. If you came to me and asked me, cool, I'll talk about it. And even then it might be clipped. I'm just now getting more comfortable with letting people in. And that's just more of me wanting to change, and just certain, like, I realized that there has to be a door somewhere.
True, super true.
And I needed to open that door. And it took a while, you know, for me to be able to do that. It's a long. Yeah,
it's a process. I think because as men, we're naturally, well, I don't want to say naturally, we're unnaturally taught about masculinity and the fact that you have to hold everything in, you have to be strong. And in reality, you end up killing yourself slowly going onto this. Like, it is how you see our grandparents or our ancestors, so to speak, like the weariness in their faces.
Oh man.
In their, like, you see somebody who looks all of maybe 30 something, right? But he does not look as refreshed as you are. It does not look as, you know, great skin, relaxed. You know, the stress is not as bare as it was then, because you saw every single bit of it. Whether it be something internally he was holding inside because of what he was dealing with, what he or her were dealing with, or something that externally they had to face every single day. And I don't think we're taught to be vulnerable in a sense. I think we're taught that vulnerability oftentimes is seen as weakness.
So it's not just that it's seen as, I don't want to say that it's just seen as weakness. I want to say it is seen as like, it's literally as simple as, all right, guys do this, women do this. Right. Like, there's literally like almost a line drawn right in the middle.
There's definitely a grand divide, I would say that.
Yeah,
I also think that women are more keen to separate who their friends are versus who their associates are, who are, you know, people, oh, that's just my homegirl at work. Like, you don't, like, her being her homegirl at work is not the same as like my sisters, my ride or dies.
Right.
Whereas men, we will literally be playing basketball with a dude we just met. Oh, that's my nigga. Like, you just met him. Like, how?
Well, some men are like that because I ain't never been like that. I just never, like, I've had dudes that, you know, okay, yeah, I hoop with this guy.
Right.
Oh, I smoke with this dude.
Right.
I drink with this dude. Whatever. But I ain't never been one just picking up homies by the wayside.
Yeah.
I never been that way.
Right.
And I never been big on, what's the word? I never been big on vouching for people.
Okay.
Like I come from a place where if you say, hey man, that's a stand-up solid guy, you better mean it.
You better be it.
You know what I'm saying? Because somebody might be want to do business with that person. I know we veering off subject, but we're just talking about, you know, what it is.
Yeah, no, I was gonna literally like bring it back to vulnerability aspect, because I think we don't want people to use our vulnerability as a weapon against us.
Oh, that is 100 in regards, and I don't think about that. Now, I actually don't think about that when I think about men. I more think about that when it comes to me and women, like me letting my feelings be known, and then, you know, one day this feeling is just thrown back at me like, oh, and I'm like, I've said this before, but yeah, I don't like my feelings or my thoughts being weaponized against me. It's like, oh, I had this moment and I came to you and I talked to you about this moment, and then the next thing I know, it could be, I don't know, months, years, days, or whatever, and then somebody else coming up to me. That's another thing too. I think the real thing is men talk just as much as women.
Absolutely.
And the gossip factor amongst men is way higher than, you know, most men think it is.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And so you have talked with someone who you felt was a confidant, and then the next thing you know, you all over the block with with what you thought was your secret or just your thoughts or whatever it may be.
Right. And it's not even the public things, right? Like, you can be someone who rides in like a 97 Chevy with like a busted tail light and like the motor run kind of leak, things like that.
Right.
People visibly see that, so they'll talk. But it's the internal things that you share with someone.
Right.
Once that leaks out and becomes a whole deal, now you feel like, why is my truth that I share with you, why is that now being used as a weapon to criticize me? Because in my truth, at that moment, I felt a very serious way, and now I came to you so that you can help me navigate out of it.
Not only that, once I had done that, whether it was finished or not, I felt a sense of relief.
Right.
A weight has been lifted, but now the weight is back on me.
Right.
Because I have people talking about it.
Right.
And coming to me, people that whether I know them or not, it doesn't matter. That was not what I wanted. That was not my intention when talking to you.
Right.
So I think another thing is men often find times, because even some of our best friends may not be good people to talk to.
we definitely I don't know if you do this, but I feel like there's sometimes a tier system in who we hit up about what.
There is a tier system.
Yeah.
There's definitely a tier system. There may be I have some friends that are great with finances.
Yes.
So I talk to them about finances. I have some friends that are great when it comes to, you know, interpersonal feelings. I'll talk to them about that. You know, just different things. And yes, mine is probably more a subject than a tier system.
Right.
But still, I mean, I hate to put them in boxes, but you need people for those things.
Right. We want our best friends to fulfill every box and every need, but it's
impossible. No one's well, first of all, I don't consider myself an expert really on anything.
Oh no,
I'm
again. I think I was telling this to someone a few days ago. Anyone who treats you as if you're an expert and considers themselves your friend is not necessarily your friend anymore. That is someone who picks and chooses when to speak to you, when to kind of like dive into you. Because if you were just simply just seen as a basic human being who
Right.
has talents and skills and maybe kind of, educated on particular situations,
Right.
you're not always going to talk about that one thing you're educated
Ever.
on. You're going to kind of dabble along. Hey, let's say, what you been shopping with? What you been using for skincare? Like, how have you been, maintaining your mental health? It should never always go back to, hey, I need help with this. I need help with this. I need
Right.
help with this. And what's fascinating is just bringing it all the way back around to one night in Miami. As we said, like, I don't think Jim Brown or Cassius Clay, soon to be Muhammad Ali, or Cassius X at the time, or Sam or Malcolm needed help, because all four of them, Cassius probably being the more young and unwise of the four,
Right.
didn't necessarily have a concept of what Black liberation looked like.
Okay.
Those other three men, because again, he saw in Malcolm a spiritual god.
Right.
And that's why he was flustered when Malcolm said he's probably leaving the nation, because
He's like, hey man, I've been, I've been riding with you on this Muslim thing, and not saying that he never said he wasn't going to be Muslim anymore, but he was just like, I was following what you seem to have said as a clear path.
exactly, because you're going to lead me here. I think what each individual brought forth that night was Malcolm saw in Cassius an entryway back into good graces. That's why I said
Right.
he was betting on that's the betting analogy I was making
Right.
earlier, because he was literally betting on the outcome of a human event, and there's no telling what would have occurred if Cassius failed that night.
Right.
There's also no telling what the real conversation would be if Jim Brown was convinced, like, nah, keep playing football. Keep playing football. I'm gonna say, they love you out there. They love you
Right.
out there. And Jim had to quickly remind him, they don't love me.
Right.
They love the act. They love that I can carry a rock and entertain them for 3 hours and obtain all sorts of records, all sorts of things. But they want to pacify themselves for just the smallest bit of dignity.
Yeah. And I think, and this is, because I'm going to skip this one thing that I wanted to talk about, because I think the reason why I wanted really, really to have this conversation, that conversation at times seemed so uncomfortable.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Definitely.
Seems so uncomfortable, and I just really didn't know. I mean, I don't want to say that I'm an out and out violent person. I want to be clear, but I will also say that I ain't never been afraid to throw hands. And some of the words that were used in there, or the way they were talking to each other,
Right.
would have made me want to throw hands.
Right.
And I just, when did you, and this is, even when your friends talk to you, like, how do you separate it from you thinking it's personal, instead of, because sometimes we take things, we're trying to talk to our friends we're talking about a personal subject,
Right.
but then we can sometimes get in our feelings like, hey, wait a minute, now you sound like you're picking on me.
Yeah. And ironically enough, like, I think we saw two very vast, well, not even different, I would say similar type experiences. Between Malcolm and Sam, Malcolm is all bluster.
Right.
Malcolm doesn't necessarily have a lot of grace, because his way of liberation is by force.
Yes.
It is by, dictation, is by showing rather than being in secret. Sam's is being through secret and make
Right.
sure everybody's paid. So that conversation and the belittling, like, yes, Sam probably should have hauled off and stole Malcolm in the jaw. I would say that in a similar effect to a recent film on Netflix, Malcolm and Marie, which is a case study in narcissism and a relationship that is so toxic it does not need to be in a relationship anymore.
Yeah, I've been kind of wanting to watch it, but I'm kind of waiting to watch that.
Okay, I'll frame it to you like this, and this is not even really a spoiler. If you
No. I think I get the gist of.
Okay, but if you were in a moment of vulnerability, which you're completely naked, like both in terms of a literal sense
and a
figurative sense, and someone decided to strip away all of that to make you feel insignificant about something because they felt they needed to be right in an argument, you probably not only like steal off on them and punch them in the face, you probably want to kill them.
Right. And and that's, I get that. And that's what I'm saying. Like, so Malcolm's belittling of Sam, even though for all intents and purposes, I have to always make sure to say that one right.
Right.
Sam was actually he was on it.
Yeah.
Like, he was like, well, look, wait a minute. I can get my money here. I can get my money here.
I can get the young boys underneath me paid.
I can get them paid, because a black movement, in my mind, okay, well, I want to empower my black people, not below me, but that are with me, to know this is how we can make some money, or this is how we can move forward, how we can take care of our families. And I think Malcolm's thing that really threw me off sometimes was Malcolm, I'm in business with this white man over here, and it's getting me paid. And I don't know if you noticed, but in order to get some of the things we have to get, sometimes we have to be in business with people that we might not want to be in business with on a...
True, but here's how Malcolm could have flipped it. Malcolm could have easily seen, so wait, you're in business with that white man. That white man that constantly steals money from you. I say, pay attention. That man always steals from you. Like that. Okay. In later years, that man, I think it was Sam's manager or booking agent, one of the two, he wound up in ownership of Sam's catalog.
And I get that, but what I'm just stating, in that particular moment, I think the thing that always threw me off about these personal conversations that sometimes can get belittling and be hurtful, is sometimes, in this particular case, the other person doesn't have a leg to stand on.
Right, but in this case, he did.
He did, but I guess what it is like, when I go to talk to people, I try to talk to people that, most of the people that I talk to are on equal or better standing than me, because sometimes it's hard to take advice, and unfortunately we as people are human and judgmental sometimes.
Right.
Sometimes it's hard to take advice or be open with people that they not there.
True. I can definitely say that on numerous occasions, like whenever I've gotten like sat down to have a conversation with or sternly talked to, even in my mid 30s now, because I turned 33 in 2 months, I literally nod and shut up. Like I literally will formulate an idea or a thought I had to find like where my feet were in my decision making. Where was I when I made the decision? Where was I when I thought this was the right move? But in actuality, it turns into a person wanting to get their shit off and basically get their emotions out. And I will take the brunt of those emotions. Like I understand where this person is coming from because it's cause and effect. Like if I had not acted the way I did, or if I did not show a moment of inaction to cause something, we wouldn't be sitting right here.
Right.
And that's more often than not. I found myself in more situations where I'm the one who created a situation.
Right.
And now it is up to me to not only see that situation, but make a decision of, do I move in a positive direction or do I let that situation go? And if we were going back to the movie, Malcolm wasn't about to let shit go.
Yeah, and I was just kind of like, I don't know. And I like you bringing up that point, because a lot of times that we go talk to people about problems that we created on our own when we could have talked to them before we created this problem. And I think that's
But also we end up creating these problems strictly off impulse.
So people are impulsive. We have, whether it be ego driven, financially, whatever it may be,
Right.
we are definitely impulsive. But when I'm saying that there were a lot of times that I would want to get help for a problem that, like you said, I created. And then sometimes I would be upset that someone was talking to me about this problem that I came to them with.
Right.
And that they talking to me some kind of way. So I wasn't ready to get rid of the problem either. That's another thing too. Like, we need to not only be able to have a good conversation, but we need to know when to have these conversations.
Right. And you're absolutely right, because I'm of the belief that if you feel something in that moment, be in that moment and have that conversation right then and there. Because the more you let it simmer, it's gonna snowball into other things. You're gonna end up popping up. You're gonna have that conversation 3 weeks later, and it's gonna bust out. Oh, and another thing. Oh, and another thing. Yeah, remember this? And it's like, focus on the problem at hand,
Right.
not the problems that you merely swept under the rug and kept smooth and chill.
And so it's kind of like, and this is just an analogy in regards to, this is one guy when I used to, I still go to meetings and everything, but this is one gentleman, and he always says, call me before you get drunk, before you take the first drink.
Right.
And it's a lot of times, like you said, we're impulsive, but we're actually getting ready to make a decision technically about our lives, and we didn't have the wherewithal to be like, hey, you know what? Maybe I should pick up the phone. Or, you know, sometimes we're our own best counsel. We can sit down, write out a pros and cons list, whatever it may be, but we didn't have the wherewithal to do that. And I guess, and like I said, for me, it was always hard to start those type of conversations.
Right.
Like, you know, hey, man, I'm thinking about changing careers. This is what I see. This might be something like, this is probably a conversation I would want to have with my dad or one of my brothers. My dad, it's not that we don't have we've had way more conversations since I've got grown than we had when I was younger. Because I just kind of watched how he worked. I thought what he did was cool because it seemed like everything worked the right way.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Funny enough, I got reminded of something on Facebook. So it was 10 years ago last week, 31st of January. It's a photo of my old work apron, and I hung it up at the very top.
I think I actually saw that post.
Yeah. I saw it at the very top, and I realized, man, I quit working retail 10 years ago to go be a full-blown entrepreneur. I have not gone back to retail since. I hung it up in the apron as if I was retiring my
jersey,
my retail jersey. Yes, and I remember that because I literally looked at what I was making $10.50 an hour, working part time, versus working with my dad, where I could get paid directly. I didn't have to worry not so much about a lot of taxes, but I still have to worry about taxes because I was doing, freelance writing. But I would have more freedom to do both. Like if I wanted to cover a concert, I didn't have to worry about, I gotta tell my boss. Like no, I can easily fit it into my lifestyle now.
Right.
I can easily become the quote unquote silk shirt assassin. Shout out to Grant. He's the one that came up with that term. In that if you saw me at a concert, you saw me out in a shirt, a tie, and some slacks, and some hard bottom shoes, or soft bottom. Well, no, me and some hard bottom shoes. I literally either had just picked somebody up, taken them to the airport, or I was about to be on my way after the show to take somebody to the airport. The last time I did it was a Megan Thee Stallion concert. This was maybe almost 2 years ago, I would say. It was April 2019, I remember. I was doing an assignment for the Fader, and we were, discussing Megan's Rise and discussing this concert. And I literally left mid-concert to go pick somebody from the airport, take them home, go back to my office, write the story out, turn the story in, and then go to sleep. I did not get home till like maybe 1 o'clock that morning. I woke up by 4 o'clock, sick as a dog. mainly because I didn't let my body rest.
Right.
And I didn't let my body just have the wherewithal, not even the wherewithal, but like the knowledge that, hey, you are not in your 20s anymore.
Right.
You cannot rip and run, bounce back up, and be straight.
Cannot
at all. So that's another thing I watched with my father, because my father was not the most physically fit man. His MO was smoking, drinking, and getting up and going to work.
Got you.
And when your main job is, I'm going to sit in front of a car. I'm going to sit behind the wheel of a car and drive all day, but not necessarily, give your body the right food it needs.
Got
or
you.
like give your
You got to fuel your engine the best way.
not only do you have to fuel your engine the best way, you have to kind of be fit. You have to kind of be mindful of your muscles. Like your muscles are going to change and develop and shift. And it even happened to me during the pandemic, because now I'm literally sitting in front of my computer all day at the house. Like if I were at the work, I could easily go downstairs, go to the gym, do some stuff,
Got you.
be cool. But the pandemic, I started feeling around. I was like, "Ooh, we pudgy." But see, I can't have that conversation. I can have that conversation with my brothers, but I feel more easygoing, and I can have these conversations far more frequently with a partner or with a woman, as a female friend of mine.
So I think there's certain conversations that are more, I don't want to call them women centric or anything, but women tend to be more in tune with their bodies,
Right.
Emotions sometimes.
It's a conversation that yields more trust.
Yeah, it yields more trust, and they're going to be, they're not, well, I ain't never really had a conversation with my homeboys about like my body and then I might have said like, hey fam, what's your workout plan? You looking fit over there, or what you been eating on or stuff like that. But never like, man, I'm getting some love handles and man, I need to do something about that. Mm-hmm. Like I ain't never really just, it's not like it's, I don't know, men start conversations we have all these different code words to start certain conversations, like, or just even like, we can't even say, hey man, like I told you, I was like, okay, fresh braids, but, or something like that. And then, but back in the day, it'd be like, oh man, where you going? You know what I'm saying? You see somebody dressed up, looking nice.
You got a job interview? Who you interviewing with?
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like we don't even have like but knowing the language to even start these conversations sometimes.
But also that's almost a moment of where you're like asking yourself, do I volunteer this information to my homeboys?
Right.
And then when you're in there, you're like, wait, how do I volunteer this information?
You know what I'm saying?
Like I think probably in my inner circle, my inner friend group, we do volunteer information, like events that have happened to us.
Right.
So then we all kind of chime in, like, dang, what happened? And then it's now not even snowballs, but now it ladders up to, okay, the base level of, okay, this is what happened to me.
Right.
And everyone starts filling in blocks on the ladder to say, okay, how do we do this? How do you do that? How do you shift around? So eventually you get to the top of, resolution. So I think back to that conversation 14 years ago, and that's kind of how a lot of it started. Like we've had these conversations around weddings, around love, around job opportunities, around finances now.
I think another thing too, and like you're saying that we're having the conversations and I was talking about how we don't know how to start the conversation. Mm-hmm. And then the other thing, and I think after this, we're gonna wrap this up because I got some other stuff in my mind that's like, I don't know where it's going, but a lot of times we have these, I don't have them as much anymore, but we have these stilted one word answer conversations that are like, we like the you good phrase just, it kind of gets on my nerves now because like, it allows us to not be, like we can see our homeboys going through something and we'll just be like, hey, you good, fam?
Yeah. And
that doesn't really allow us to do things. And like when we were talking about safe spaces, another thing that I have not done in quite a while and I'm actually do this, and I'm gonna make it a point to do this, but I have not gone to lunch with one of my homeboys in a while. And I think that another thing, and I love this about women, it don't have to be Sunday fun day or none of that type of stuff. They'll make a lunch date with one of their friends. They will definitely
make that happen.
And they'll make that happen. And I think that's something that should be more normal amongst men, and it not be a business meeting. It not be, well, I mean, it's either that or that. You know what I'm saying? We shouldn't have to always meet on the golf course, or we're gonna go to the gym, or like, it should be normal for two dudes, whether in a relationship, not in a relationship, whatever it may be, to be able to have lunch and talk out some stuff. And I don't think, and again, that's another outside perception,
right?
of like, we just
yeah. I had to stop and pause for a minute. I was like, yeah, also because me and my brothers were so spread out, right? I have one that's in California, another one's in Austin, the other three are here, right? But also, of those three that are here, two of them legit have like families, they're married. Right.
I know we got stuff going on.
And then like we legit have to, like, I guess you would say, you know, you make time for things you want to accomplish, for things you want to do, you make time for the impulses you want to give into, right?
Right.
And I think we need also make time for the impulses of giving ourselves to
our friendships.
To our friendships and to our relationships. I remember so often, you ever like keep planning, like just like this, like we plan this conversation, to plan it, to sit down, it happens, there's a technical difficulty, we're like, okay, well, cool, we'll just run this back, and then we're like, well, as soon as we figure out the time, it works. I think with our friendships, we often need to do that. We often need to just give each other the grace,
right,
when we can't come through. You can't. Now, I would also say, be consistent in when you're great, and when you can't be available. But also, I think I want to ask you this as well.
Okay.
Also, understand when are your boundaries established, and when are your boundaries set upward.
So, in regards to my boundaries, I don't know if I have a essential set of boundaries as to. So, like, I'll say this: a lot of my friends probably know, hey, I don't talk on the phone much because I used to work in call centers all the time. So I was on the phone all day.
Right.
I, worked for a phone company. There's certain things I don't, between whatever my work hours are, I'll answer all your phone questions.
Right.
But when I'm off from work, I don't want to answer those questions unless you're like, it's got to be super whatever.
It's a real big red.
It's a real big red flag that you need to know about.
Oh, you saying like, oh yeah, not only is it a red flag, but what are my office hours? My office hours are from 9
to 5. But if I'm at work during those times, I'll answer those questions. The other thing I don't like is, and I guess everybody has, like, I got like I'm only picking up the phone for certain people because I know they don't call that much. And if they need something, I know it's important. Now, when it comes to my personal, hey, I don't want to talk about this boundary or walls that I might put up, I'm probably going to give it to you right there in the conversation, which is probably bad. I probably need to establish certain boundaries now that I'm sitting here thinking about it. It's not that because I don't want to come off as, and I'm trying to get better at this, I don't want to come off as like someone that will shut you down.
Right.
And a lot of times that makes people feel that they can't come to you I'm trying to be as open as possible, but I also need you to know that I have enough weight to carry on my own.
Right.
My main personal boundary is I don't want to carry your water for you if you ain't really trying to carry it yourself. You know what I'm saying?
I got you.
I got you. Don't drop off something to me that, especially when it becomes, I think I'm sure everybody has this type of stuff. I don't like being in between two people that I know. That's a big thing for me. I don't want to be, please don't put me in that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I have a personal stake in both of y'all. You know, I love you both. Don't make me be like, and I'll be honest, like, so one of my brothers recently got a divorce, okay, or is going through one. And I just told him, I was like, hey fam, I'm still gonna talk to you, your wife. That's my friend.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Just so you know. I'm one of those guys. Like, if I'm friends on both sides, I'm not finna just stop being somebody's friend who has done nothing to me.
Right. I've been there for a few.
Yeah. So
my my brother. Well, no, I'll say all of my brother's exes, save for one. No, actually, no. I would say this. No, we've done a pretty darn good job of excommunicating ourselves from our friends' significant others. We've done very well in that regard, because it's almost like once you're married, everybody you've dated before, it do not matter anymore.
Right.
It don't matter no more. But also, I would say that I have not the greatest of track records when it comes to closing relationships.
I guess since I haven't had that many relationships.
No. I'm not talking like just like you're dating someone.
Okay.
I'm talking about like in a general sense of I knew this person, I communicate with this person, I have a history with this person, and it's still like seemingly open. Like the door is always open. I'm not very good at closing doors.
I got you.
The main reason why I say I'm not good at closing doors is because I think sometimes, you know, in this particular space of being in journalism, it's almost like transactional a lot of times.
Yes.
Because you never know when you're gonna have to actually call somebody up to like say, hey, I may need assistance with this. But when it comes to me and others, now I'm starting to kind of see like I will pull away to kind of pause the relationship, because I know that my time in this moment is on hold now. I don't need to be here.
Right.
Like your need to comment to discuss.
It's like a ghost pause.
Yeah, it's a ghost pause. Like it's not even ghosting, you know what I'm saying?
No, I'm just saying, but just like, hey, I'm not physically telling you or verbally telling you that I'm setting you aside or setting this aside, but it's just more of and some of it, and let's be clear, some of it's just actual growth. You know, some of people are here for a reason or a season. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And that can be with friends, that can be with whoever it may be, but I'm just saying, like, sometimes it's just about, hey, wait a minute, I'm at this place right now, but I have now grown to this place.
Right. So now that makes me think of a question, but finish your thought.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay, so no, this will probably be our last one. Do you think that Malcolm and Cassius' relationship, do you think it would have extended beyond that season had Malcolm not died? Because Cassius in later years has, before he passed himself, stated he felt heartbroken that he didn't reach out to Malcolm and he didn't kind of try to mend that. So
the issue I have with that is, and a lot of people know this about me, I'm a very hard hypothetical person when it comes to I just have a hard time with hypothetical questions when it comes to stuff like that, because you never know which direction anyone would have veered off.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because who's to say that Malcolm at that point would have wanted Cassius or Muhammad Ali around? Who's to say that? Because we never know which direction, what was going to happen.
Right.
I guess I'm kind of like, okay, that person's gone now. I can't, my mind, as open as it may be, does not allow for that sometimes, which kind of is good and bad in a way, because the reason why it's good for me is I'm a big rabbit hole guy.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Because I do, like that. See, the reason why I asked that question is I know it probably would just drop you down a rabbit hole. Like, dang. So what if Malcolm was alive from Thriller Manila? What if Malcolm was alive for Rumble in the Jungle? Things like that. Because I do believe, as time progressed, you know, and Malcolm was still on his own accord, I don't know if he would be as beloved as he is now compared to then, because he became softer, but starting in 1964 when he visited Mecca and noticed
Right.
that there were more Muslims that looked not like him in terms
Correct.
of blackness, but in terms of just universality. And I don't even know that's a word, but that's not here.
It's the word today.
It's the word today. So I think because again, Ali went on that same journey years later. So I think while Malcolm was his initial spiritual advisor, had the relationship continued and Malcolm not passed, I think not only would Ali still have not gone to the war, he still would have become a hero, the greatest, if you will. I also think that sometimes those are the relationships you miss on the most. The ones that kind of you have a seed planted,
Right.
but then you decide to chop the tree with somebody else's axe.
So that I can understand. And hey, we appreciate y'all sitting in and everything. This is I'm not gonna do an and here because I think what we need to just go over really quickly here before before I let Brandon tell you where you can find him and everything like that.
Right.
So what we've gone over today is how to have a critical conversation with your friend or being on the receiving end of that particular conversation. Mm-hmm. Spaces that men need in order to grow.
Absolutely.
The work that we as men need to do in order to accomplish this growth.
Do the work.
You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And the fact that it's okay to think about the what ifs about our friendships, good, bad, otherwise, where they might lead and where we might need to leave them sometimes. So these are questions that you guys can ask yourselves. Brandon, I want to thank you for joining me here today on Cups of Coffee with Tex.
Not a problem, sir. It was a pleasure to be here, to have this open dialogue, so to speak. A lot of times, usually it's me doing the interviewing, asking questions, so it's kind of fun to be on the opposite end of that and kind of just open my thoughts up on a number of topics, especially not only just love, but just general relationships, platonic love and otherwise. For those who want to find me, follow me. I am on Instagram at BrandoC. That's BRANDOC. I am on Twitter at _BrandoC. And you can catch me wherever you may find me writing about music or just discussing life in general.
Okay. Well, again, guys, please remember to go watch One Night in Miami.
Yes.
On Amazon Prime, the directorial debut of Regina King.
Academy Award winner.
Regina King. I apologize because you're supposed to say that every time.
Yes.
And I apologize about that.
It's
Regina
like a doctor
King.
now.
Yes. Yeah, I'm supposed to say that every time. I want to thank you guys for tuning into this episode of Cups of Coffee with Tex, and we'll be back at you soon.